Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I am Lonnie from Horror Heaven 77. And yeah, the movie that I want to talk about, I know I probably might get some shit for this, but you know what? Screw it. I really enjoy this movie. I like this movie a lot. And I know this movie really rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but I wanted to go ahead and discuss it. And the movie I'm talking about is from 2014, written and directed by Kevin Smith, and it is called Tusk. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this movie at all. I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people bash this movie. They bashed everything about it. By now, that's the thing. When this movie first came out, it was meant to try to be kept a secret that Johnny Depp is in this movie playing a character, and but of course everybody knows that now. So, but yeah, I really do like this movie. For I don't know what happened, what the deal was. We all know Kevin Smith is a master of comedy, and we know from the Jay and Silent Bob movies and everything else. And he decided, pretty much after Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, that's it, no more of the Jay and Silent Bob movies. But then he tried to experiment making other kinds of films, so he tried to make, well, he didn't try, he did. He made Jersey Girl, which was, meant to be just kind of a warm, fuzzy, kind of fun family movie, more family oriented kind of movie. Because if you know Kevin Smith, his movies are very vulgar, but at the same time, they're very sweethearted movies. And he decided, you know what, just get rid of the vulgarity and just do, do Jersey Girl and just try to make a movie that's kind of more family friendly, more fun. That didn't work. So then he tried, I'm going to try to do I'm going to take an assignment and I'm going to do, a buddy cop action comedy blockbuster in the vein of like, Lethal Weapon and stuff. So he did Cop Out. That really didn't work. I have to be honest, that's probably the one movie Kevin Smith made that I just can't stand. Um, so then, at some point he decided he's going to make a horror film. And, he ended up making a really, really snazzy little horror suspense thriller that Mikey Fish Horror reviewed on here called Red State. And that movie's amazing. The movie is so good. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's, and that's the thing, that's one thing that always bugs me is like a lot of people say that Kevin Smith doesn't write really intelligent films or anything like that. It's like, go look at that movie. That movie I think is really, really good. It's a lot better than some of the shit I've been seeing here lately. But anyway, so um, I guess Red State came out. It became a big hit, did really well. And then I guess the idea was Kevin Smith was like, well, maybe right now, because he did do Zack and Miri Make a Porno. I forgot to mention that one. And a lot of people really didn't like that movie. It seems like that movie is gaining a little bit of a cult following now. But when it first came out, the problem was when that came out around the same time, like all these Judd Apatow movies were coming out. It seemed like every week there was another Judd Apatow movie. Like last week was Pineapple Express. Next week it's Superbad. The week after that's 40-Year-Old Virgin. So it seemed like there was just all these constant like Judd Apatow movies. And when Zack and Miri Make a Porno came out, that movie was, everybody just kind of looked at it as like, well, that's just Kevin Smith trying to make a Judd Apatow movie. But anyway, I've been getting off base here. So after the success of Red State, I guess, Kevin Smith's like, well, right now, comedy's not doing so good for me. I'll go ahead and try my hand at horror. And so he followed it up with this. He also did a segment for the horror anthology Holidays, which, in my opinion, that's the best segment in the entire movie. I've seen all of it, and just my personal opinion, I think his story was the best one. Then he did this. Then he did Yoga Hosers, which really, as much as people bash this, people way worse handed him his ass for Yoga Hosers. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll talk about that movie, but for right now, we're talking about Tusk. I know it's over 4 minutes. I even started talking about the movie itself yet. So the story is pretty interesting. Now, everybody always refers to this movie as Kevin Smith's version of the Human Centipede, which while I could see why they would think that, Smith himself said that he admitted he never really watched he never really watched Human Centipede when he was making this. He said, if anything, he was more inspired. Well, two things inspired him. One, he was doing a podcast with his friend Scott Mosier, and they started talking about this story that they heard. Excuse me, about this elderly man who wanted a roommate and to live with him, and this roommate could live rent free and all this kind of stuff. And there were all these great perks, but there was like a little caveat that whoever applied for this position had to fill. And the position being was that, for a period of time per day, they had to wear a walrus suit, and they had to basically just act like a walrus and make sounds like a walrus and things like that. Apparently, this older man, he was well off and had a lot of money, and he had this really like elaborate walrus costume that was created. And he said, for like so many hours a day, this person had to dress up in this walrus costume and act like a walrus and try to make noises like a walrus and things like that. And so Kevin Smith, decided, well, why don't instead of, hey, why don't I take that? I don't know if he ever decided to pursue it as a comedy first, but everything he said, he decided, no, I want to make this into a horror film. And but he did say, he didn't say that he was inspired by um, the Human Centipede. He did say he was inspired by Hammer Dracula films, or not Hammer Dracula, Hammer Frankenstein films. Sorry, I just got off work and my brain is mush right now. So anyway, and I could definitely see that too, because you have the character of Howard Howe, played by the late great Michael Parks in this movie, and I'll get to him in just a minute. So let's go ahead and we'll finally, after almost 7 minutes, we'll talk about the movie. The movie, has a really interesting story. It is a basic kind of cliched horror story. Now the story begins. You have these two characters. You have Wally Wallace, which pun on words, pun on name. Uh, you have Wallace Brighton, I think his name was, and then his friend Teddy. Now Wallace is played by Justin Long. Teddy is played by Haley Joel Osment. And if I could go on just a tangent here for just a second, one thing that bothers me nowadays, whenever people talk about Haley Joel Osment, nobody ever says he's a good actor anymore. Nobody ever says whenever people see Haley Joel Osment, like the last thing I'm sure he's still doing other stuff, but like the last thing I saw him in was at, was it Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, that Ted Bundy movie on Netflix. He played a supporting role in that movie, and I thought he did pretty well myself. But that's one thing I know is a lot of people say anymore. They don't say if he's any good anymore. All they keep saying is he's fat. I kind of find that a little irritating. That it's like, he's still acting, and I've seen him I thought he was good in this. I thought he was good in the Ted Bundy movie and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, he was a great kid actor and everything, Sixth Sense and all the artificial intelligence stuff like that. My opinion, he's still got it. He's still a good actor. But nobody ever says anymore if they think he's a good actor or anything. All everybody says is, yeah, Haley Joel Osment, God, he's fat. Stopped acting, must have really hit the donuts pretty hard. That's the only thing I ever hear anybody say about him anymore, is he's fat. But anyway, so you got the two characters. You got Wallace and you got Teddy. And they're doing a podcast, which you could tell, like, Kevin Smith, if you follow Kevin Smith and you follow, like, a lot of what he does and everything, you can see he put a lot of his own real life experiences into this movie, because Kevin Smith does a number of podcasts. He's done podcasts. What was it, Smodcast with Scott Mosier? What was it, Hollywood Babylon, I think it is, with Ralph Garman. You see him on YouTube. He does all kinds of podcasts and stuff. So, but you got Wallace and Teddy, and they're talking about this video that went viral. And in this video, it's called The Kill Bill Kid. And, nice little nod to Quentin Tarantino, because in real life, Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino are really best friends. So this guy takes, basically, a Hattori Hanzo sword, and he's, trying to, it basically is kind of like rehashing kind of like the Jedi viral video from years ago, where the kid was trying to do the lightsaber thing and he was like falling flat on his face. Only in this version, the kid takes a sword and he accidentally cuts his own leg off. Now, admittedly, the CGI there wasn't the greatest, but then again, too, I mean, what are you gonna do? Really have this kid cut off his own leg? So anyway, so the two of them, they're laughing about it and stuff like that. And at the beginning of the movie, yeah, Teddy and Wallace are not the nicest characters. Um, Even though Teddy does say, I have to admit, he's like, I'm not laughed out yet, but at the same time, I feel bad. And Wallace is like, why does this kid feel bad? He's got more hits than I do. If anything, I'm jealous of him and things like that. So it's like, I want to go talk to this kid. I want to find out like what's going on with him and everything since. so, um, so he's like, yeah, we're going to do our podcast on the Nazi party. Not Nazi like Hitler or anything. It's called not NOT, then, dash SEE. And so, Wallace decides he's going to go to Canada to interview this Kill Bill kid. So he gets to Canada and he finds out that this kid, because of all the notoriety and everything that he got, and becoming basically kind of a public laughing stock on, social media and things like that, the kid decided to kill himself. And so, yeah, so Wallace, on the one hand, he's like, yeah, I know it's a horrible thing to say, but I'm kind of pissed off that this kid killed himself. Selfish little prick couldn't wait a day or two, just till I could get the interview and stuff. So he's like, now I'm up here in Canada, spent all this money on, airfare to get here and stuff. It's like, now we got no story. So he's looking around. So he's hanging around in a bar and he goes into the bathroom to take a whiz. And, he sees that there's an advertisement for, somebody to come and live in this house with this man rent free and everything else. And, he's going to, he's like, I want somebody to listen to my stories. I have a lot of stories to tell. I've lived a long life at sea and I've, all this other kind of stuff. And Wallace thinks that this is pretty interesting. So, he's on his way over there and he stops off at a convenience store. We got the two Colleens who run the convenience store. One is played by Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn, and then Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose. The two of them played the convenience store clerks in a fun little cameo, which would lead to them getting the movie Yoga Hosers. And so, they have this little back and forth and stuff, this kind of funny back and forth. So they get to, so he gets to the house and it's this big kind of almost gothic looking mansion that's out in the middle of nowhere and, kind of hidden from civilization. There's a big, iron gate and he gets in and then he's introduced to the character of Howard Howe, played by the late great Michael Parks. And Michael Parks, starts telling him stories. He's like, can I offer you some tea? Which does kind of harken back to Red State, because in Red State, the three boys go to Melissa Leo's trailer and she offers him beer. So anyway, he drinks the tea and he's been drugged and so he collapses. But before this, Howard is telling him this story about how his life was saved by a walrus. And, you kind of get some hints that Howard is he's a little off his rocker. But we're going to find out as the movie goes, he's actually a lot off his rocker. So anyway, so he, so next thing you know, Wallace wakes up and, but we find out before that Wallace's girlfriend, what was the girl's name? Not the actress's name, but the character's name. Oh, man. Oh, God, what's the girl's name? Anyway, so Abby? Yeah, I think it was Abby. So anyway, we find out that she's crying and at first she's talking. And that's the thing, that kind of bugs me. Like a lot of people say, oh, Kevin Smith can't write good dialogue or Kevin Smith can't write a good scene or direct a good scene. Watch the scene with Genesis Rodriguez in that scene where she's sitting on the bed and she's staring into the camera and it's all happening real. She's crying. You see the tears coming out of her eyes and she delivers this speech, this monologue. And it's beautifully done. She delivers it very well. And, she talks about how her father would be ashamed of her now. She's glad that her father's not here to see that she fell in love with a man who cheats on her, because we find out that Wallace he likes to take these trips away from Abby so he can go and screw around and things like that. And so, but then we find out that, while he's having an affair, she turned, and him having an affair caused her to have an affair with Teddy. So her and Teddy are having a thing going, and she's talking about, you make me feel cherished, you make me feel loved and wanted, things like that. And so they go to bed together the next day. It's like, um, you got, Wallace is, he wakes up and he's all disoriented and stuff like that. And, he's like, yeah, he's kind of, he's so drugged up. And what we don't realize, you see Michael Parks, and he's sitting there, and he's got this white, basically like a tusk, like a walrus tusk there, like that. And he's polishing it and shaping it and everything else, and he puts it on there. What we find out later is that's, well, let me get to this first. So he goes and he starts having this back and forth. He's giving Wallace water to drink, and he's kind of giving him this really, really kind of bullshit story about how he got bitten by a brown recluse spider, and he was very poisoned. Called the doctor. The doctor came, and all this stuff, and then he turned around and yeah, there was a problem though, and so Wallace, he's confined in a wheelchair, and he's strapped in, and then there's a blanket over his lap. He pulls the blanket off, and he sees his leg is missing. And he's like, "My God, what the fuck happened to my leg?" and all this stuff. And you start to really see that Michael Parks' character really is insane, and we find out that actually the tusk was actually, he cut off Wallace's leg and skinned it and everything and shaped it into a walrus tusk. So when you see, so that's how creepy is that? So like when you see him with these tusks here, that's actually his leg bones that Michael Parks' character fashioned into walrus tusks. And so he's so Walrus now realizes he's in deep shit. He's he's trapped with this psychopathic man, and this man is talking about how he's kind of going on about how he had this friendship with this walrus when he was in the war. His ship got blown up. He was lost at sea. Found his way to an island, and on this island he found this walrus, and this walrus basically like covered him and kept him warm and helped him to survive. And he has this real, he has this kind of kinship with this walrus and stuff like that. So he wants to recreate it. And so, so Wallace, he finds his phone. He's trying to contact Teddy and Abby, and trying to get them to come help. And they find out that he's trying to contact him, but there's that creepy scene where Michael Parks, comes up and tells him, "You're not going anywhere," and you're either going to die or you're going to go through with this and stuff. And so, and then ultimately, he turns him into this really grotesque walrus creature, which Kevin Smith always described as Leatherface walrus. And and then now we find out that Teddy and his girlfriend, Teddy and Abby, they're trying to find out what happened to Wallace. So they get to Canada, and they're trying to, they're trying to find out, trying to see if they can find any leads. They're looking around, so they go to the chief of police, played by Ralph Garman, and he recommends that they see a detective who now we all know is played by Johnny Depp, Guy Lapointe. So, and so it's like now you got the three of them. Time is running out. Wallace is being tortured and terrorized by Howard Howe. His legs have been cut off. He's been deformed and everything else, turned into this hideous walrus creature and things like that. And so now Abby, Teddy, and Guy Lapointe have to try to save him before it gets too late. And at the same time, you got Howard Howe. He's talking about he ended up killing the walrus because he was starving. So he killed the walrus for food. And so now he's talking about this, fight to the death to, see who can, who's going to win. And so anyway, I've given away too much of the movie already, but I really enjoy this movie. I know it's weird, it's batshit insane, but that's one of the things I like about it. I know a lot of people Kevin, a lot of people be like, yeah, nobody ever made a movie like this. You know why? Because everybody thinks it's a crap idea. It's like, you don't know what's going to be a crap idea until you try it. So, and I know, like I said, I know this movie gets a lot of hate, but I actually enjoy it. I think this movie is a lot of fun. The creature, The walrus design by Robert Kurtzman is really cool. The movie's not overly graphic, but there is some blood scenes and some really. Um, the movie's more disturbing than it is anything else. There are images in here that are disturbing. Once you kind of realize the concept, the one thing too that also bugs me though is like when people talk about in real life, people talk about like insane people, and everybody says, okay, yeah, like insane people, they don't grasp reality the same as you or I would do it, but yeah, so they don't see the outside world the way that we do. But the thing is when you project that into a film, you have a main character who is insane. He's clearly insane. Um, but everybody's all like, how come it doesn't make rational sense? It's like, because he's insane. This guy obviously is crazy. For a man who wants to reconnect with a walrus that he killed and ate years ago, does that strike you as somebody who's really thinking rationally? And then throughout the years, God knows how many young men he's turned into these walrus creatures and killed and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. There's a great documentary about the making of it on YouTube right now, which is really cool. That's has Kevin Smith and everybody from the movie. Is directed by Jason Mewes, and because Mewes was a producer on this, and unfortunately he didn't act in the movie, but yeah, I had a lot of this fun. I had a lot of fun with this. I know a lot of people really shit on Johnny Depp for this movie. I don't. I'm a Johnny Depp fan. I really enjoy his movies. And I thought he was fun. I thought the character he played was fun, so I enjoyed it. But I know a lot of people don't. This is not gonna be for everybody. It's definitely gonna be a either love it or hate it kind of movie. But personally, I love it. Of course, I'm a Kevin Smith fan, but anyway, that's just me. But anyway, I'm sorry this video went off for so long. I know I went off on quite a number of tangents, but if anybody took the time to watch all this, I thank you for doing it, and I honestly appreciate you for doing it. If you like this video, please like. If you haven't subscribed already to the Body Bags channel, please do. We have a different reviewer for every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. We got great guys. They're all doing great stuff. We got theme weeks. We got all kinds of good stuff coming up. So, yeah. So anyway, take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.